It does seem like, depending on where you look, peace is in short supply. When I think about peace, I think of it in three different ways, or I think of it in like three segments. Peace that you have with the world, peace that you have with those close by you. It could be like friends, family, neighbors, just people you interact with on a daily basis, a weekly basis. And then you have that very close internal peace. Some people call that feeling settled, or it's a spiritual type of peace. There's different types of internal peace you could probably argue for. And I just want to talk about all this today. And I'm not going by any type of outline or any like additional research. This is just all off the top of my mind. And I feel called to talk about this on various levels. So here we go. When it comes to peace, a lot of us have choices, and you make the wrong choice, or maybe it's not even a wrong choice. Maybe if it's just you make a choice, period, you have various outcomes. And one of those outcomes is that you may degrade or erode peace for yourself or for other people. Now, a lot of people believe that they have the power to influence everything. And maybe that's true on some level, but you don't have, and we know this on a core level, we don't really need to harp on this, but we know that we can't control everything, or even most things for that matter. In fact, there's very little that we can control in this world. For some of us, controlling ourselves is like a full-time job. I mean, and a lot of us seem like we can't even manage that. So when it comes to peace, if you can't even control yourself, and what I'm going at here is self-control. There's a lot of people who have very big problems with impulse control, and it leads them down a path to results that are non-desirable. And so we need to work on ourselves, inside ourselves first and foremost. And only when we can actually make decisions that are good for ourselves, then we can start to work on the relationships outside of ourselves. So it could be those neighbors, it could be those friends and family, it could be just how you talk to someone over the internet, to a stranger, just like I'm talking to a lot of you guys that I've never met before. And it's one of those things that when you have respect for yourself, when you have a settled nature that lends to peace, you view the world very differently, and you choose your actions differently. And so by changing the way you think of the world, you have various outcomes that you may have not considered before. And because of this, it lends toward a fresh new life for a lot of us. Especially if you don't have very much peace, or maybe you don't have any peace at all, which that would be very sad. But there are a lot of people in this world that feel very stuck, and they feel like they don't have a level of comfort within. They don't really have a level of just genuine peace and harmony with themselves, with others, with their environment. They just feel like a foreign invader, or some alien, from another planet that just kind of got dropped off here, and you don't really fit in. The more people that I've talked to in my life, the more people that I've realized that people say the same thing, and that is, people a lot of times just don't feel like they fit in. And I've had a number of jobs, and I've asked this question over the years, and there's a lot of people that don't like their job, they don't know what they're doing there at the job, and once again, they don't really know why they're there, and they certainly don't feel comfortable there, and they don't fit in. And, when I was younger, when I was in college, I took a lot of classes. And I also noticed there was a lot of people that would say things like that. The more I think about it, like during study hall, when we get together after class and try to study something, and a lot of times our study halls were not very productive at all. They were full of distractions. But sometimes people, especially in a smaller group, there's always a person or two that would say something like, man, I don't know what this is all about. And I don't know my role, why I'm even taking this class. I don't even know why I'm here in college. And there's a lot of very confused people. It's pretty normal, though, for the most part, when you have younger people to be somewhat confused. That is normal. And even when you're in your 20s and 30s, people just don't have things figured out. But it tends to be a little more shocking to people when you're 50, 60, 70 years old and you don't really know who you are still, and you don't know what you like and you don't like, and you don't really know what really motivates you. That can be very shocking. It would kind of be shocking to me too. And a lot of times when you don't know these things, these basic questions like, who you are, and I'm not saying, any of us fully figure that out. It's always a work in progress. But if you're not even working toward that, that's going to disturb your peace. That's going to very much disturb your peace. And so if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you like and you're not doing the things that you like and you're just kind of pushing through every day, that daily drudge, and you just kind of, you're just doing things because you think that's what's expected of you and you're not happy at all. Well, obviously you have persistence, so that's a great virtue. But that persistence isn't being used in a manner to develop you. And so that'll really distort any sense of peace when you're using your virtues in an illogical and basically in a very ineffective way. So you have to have focus. You have to know what you're working toward. You have to be working on growing as an individual, not just skills, but the awareness of yourself. That comes with time. I can remember very clearly when I was a youngster watching my parents or grandparents do things. And I'm sure you can remember these things too. Of course, the older we get, sometimes it's a little harder to go way back when we were very young, but just go back as far as you can. And just think about when you were a youngster, how you looked at other people and you kind of learned from watching. You kind of modeled their behavior and their actions. And even what they said sometimes, you might copy what they said. Because of this, you have created some type of pathway. It doesn't mean that it's original. It doesn't mean that it's the best solution or approach to do something, but it is an option. And as we go through life, we're just shown or we're given opportunities to experience things over and over and over. And hopefully over time, your life becomes more efficient and you can be more effective at doing what you should be doing so that you can have maximum growth. Of course, that's always a pretty big question, though, for philosophers, even for those that are religious or spiritual. What is the real potential of a human? Like, really, if we were not held back by any doubt, any physical limitation, any mental limitation, any kind of financial limitation, any limitation at all. If we had no limitation and we didn't have any negativity, it was like we could just completely focus, what could we turn out to accomplish? And if you look back in history, there's always examples, every, century, even every decade, if you probably look hard enough, of a person or two that is just very exceptional people. And these people typically are pretty happy, right? And they have a lot of peace. Not always, but it does kind of come with the territory. The more that you are, in progress of growth, personal growth, the more it seems like you're just happier. You're more fulfilled and you have that more settledness for that internal, that peace that we talk about. And you have these very special people. They either have brilliant minds or skills or approaches that are unique, for that time period. Or maybe they have developed various techniques of how to think about things, how to do things. And there's examples of people throughout history that we can look back and go, wow, that person was a great leader. A lot of times, though, you find that there's always a fault or two that these people have had. But, once again, no one's perfect. And I'm not saying this is the goal to be perfect. In fact, what you find is really the opposite, that you don't want to mess up purposefully, so to speak, but you do want to give yourself opportunities when you fail to get back up and keep on pushing through. It's really what's been found is that through failure, and for some people in some situations in certain time periods, a massive amount of failure was required. It was a requirement, really, to get to success. And you had to suffer, and you had to go through these trials to really figure out how to really do something, because it was never done before. It was just completely an abstract concept, and they figured out, though, after all this time, energy, resources, whatever, how to make it real in the real world, not just abstract but concrete. And so that's something that I try to take away too from when I think about this, is that we have a lot of thoughts, and not a lot of things that we think about actually turn into things. We don't work toward things to make things, real. But sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. And so take a look at how you got certain things done in your life, that when you look back for a moment, you may say, wow, that was like really amazing that I was able to accomplish that. But was it really amazing, or were you just that focused? Did you really just have everything lined up at the right time and place? Did you know the right people? Did you understand what you were doing, and you were very effective at deploying whatever needed to be deployed for a certain result? And so, at this moment, it still amazes me that I got through college, in the way that I did. And I was like, wow, that was a lot of classes. But what happened was I just did a little bit at a time, And over the years, it just built up, just like anything else. There's people I talk to that they say, well, I'll be like, how many years have you worked here? And they're like, oh, I've only worked here and then they pause and they think for a moment. They're like, oh, I've been here for 25 years, or I've been here for 30 years. And it surprises them. They're like, whoa, is that true? And I'd be like, so you're getting close to retirement. And some people are like, well, I guess I never thought about retirement. And this is how it is for us sometimes in our lives. We can get sidetracked by just living life or doing things in a certain way, have a certain habit. And habits can be good or bad, but what's really interesting is the more that you can challenge your lifestyle and your habit, the more you're apt to see how you can improve it. And I love various different types of simple things that you can do that are very incremental to better your life. For example, I love the 2-minute rule. And I recently talked about that, where basically you look at a goal that you want to accomplish, and you just work on that, at least officially on paper, for 2 minutes a day. And what you'll find is that most of the time, after your 2 minutes is up, you'll want to work on it a little bit more, because once you get started, you want to do a little more than just 2 minutes, because anybody can do 2 minutes a day on anything. And so what you find is that you might spend 5 or 10 minutes a day. And even then you might say, well, I've got a lot more time. I'll just work on this for a half an hour, or even an hour. And it's amazing how productive you can be by setting very, very reasonable and practical, sometimes even like low ball goals. Now, some people will get upset about this and say, no, you should have very big goals and you should, push yourself. But you know what? How many times have you not done what is on your goal sheet because it was just too overwhelming to approach it that day? So make every day approachable. And what you'll find is that you'll typically supersede your goal and do a lot more. So I also like the whole recommendation of clean your room. And I mean, I'm talking more like your bedroom, but it could be any room in the house you could start out with. And it'll change the way you view the world. I mean, especially if you really have not cleaned your bedroom for a long period of time. And you go in there and you go, okay, today I'm going to clean my room. And once again, if that's just too big of a goal for you, or if you think that's just not going to happen, then divide the room in half and say, today I'm doing this half of the room and tomorrow the other half. And what you'll notice, and even if it takes more than 2 days, so what? If it takes a whole week, that's okay. whatever time that you need, just do it. And after you get that room cleaned, tell me how you view the world. You're going to feel a little different. You'll be like, this looks pretty good. And after a week of having that room cleaned, come back to the room and sit down on your bed, for example, or sit in a chair if you have a chair in your bedroom, and just look at the room, like really intently look at the room. And think to yourself, how can I improve this space? How can I make this room even better than what it is right now? Give yourself like 5, 10, 15 minutes to think about it, or even longer if you want. But that's just something to really consider doing. How can I improve this room? And make a goal for the next day, or maybe even a series of days of how you're going to go about it. But don't be too crazy. Maybe just make very simple goals for the next day. Like, okay, I'm going to work on making this room better tomorrow, and I'm going to just do it for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Make it really easy to do. And what you'll notice is that typically you'll just make that improvement in one day because you're going to be so motivated and excited to see a result. And this is the magic of the mind. And this is all about progress. This is all about doing things to make our lives better. And we typically are more happy too when we have environments that are more inviting for personal growth. And this ushers in peace. You know, there's something about having a clean room. You feel more peaceful inside, right? I mean, we have mind, body, and spirit. And you throw any one of those off, right? You're not going to feel right. And sometimes that feeling of feeling off is that your peace isn't in balance. And then what happens from cleaning your room and improving your room, it becomes a metaphor for you in your life. And that can expand as far as you want to take it. Think of it like a big bubble. And you can make the bubble bigger and bigger so it can spill out and making other rooms better. Cleaning the other rooms, making them better. And what you find is that in a matter of days or weeks, the whole house or even the whole property that you own is in better shape. And that you like it a lot more than it was before. And you can take this whole metaphor and philosophy and extend it out to your work, your place of work and the place of worship. Or when you go over to a friend's house, you have a different sense of yourself. You have this more peaceful self to share with others. And that's the beauty of being peaceful, having true peace. And in closing, I just want to say that sometimes the way we feel is because of things that we may not understand. And I just want to throw one example in there, and that there are a lot of people in this world that are nutrient deficient. And when you don't have the nutrients, the basic building blocks for your body to really function as efficiently as it can be, you're going to feel off. And there's all kinds of nutrients, minerals and so forth that people are deficient in. And I just want to tell you of a few that really help me. Okay, first is vitamin D. And I take vitamin D3 with K2 so they can absorb. And I feel a lot better. Number 2, magnesium. Now, I take the magnesium citrate and a few other forms, but mainly the citrate is very good for calming you down and relaxing. And I definitely feel a lot more peaceful. And so there is a part of me that believes that there's definitely, at some point in my life, I just started to become a little bit magnesium deficient. And so I take a supplement in the morning and I take one at night. They're not what you would consider very large doses, but they do a great job on, helping me feel calm. And also you have things like lemon balm or peppermint oil. And there's a whole other things that can really settle down people. Some people have different reactions than others. Some people, it's a very mild sense of peace or calm that comes over you. Sometimes it's very strong. So, you just take it slow when you start any of this. And of course, it would make a lot of sense to to, have some advice given to you from a certified or licensed herbalist, nutritionist, and I would say, your physician, your local doctor, but in my area, the doctors don't know anything about nutrition, so they're not really any resource. So you definitely want to talk to people who have real knowledge about this. So that's all I want to say today. I wish you much peace. You guys take care.